Ladies and gentlemen, Stan Musial.
Thanks, Merlin. 1957 was a pretty special year for me. I won a National League batting title for the 7th time at the ripe old age of 36. That's how tough things were at that age, but 27 years ago, it was especially tough for me because of an injury I suffered in August against the Phillies, and it happened when I tried to protect a runner going to second base by swinging at a pitch that was way outside. The runner succeeded in stealing second base, and I succeeded in yanking my left arm out of the socket, tearing the muscles around the collarbone, and fracturing my shoulder. 2 weeks later, my shoulder feels better and was still bothering me rather, and I came back anyway, and because we were in a pennant race against Milwaukee. I managed to hit 500 during the last 10 games and clinch the batting title, but that wasn't enough to help us win the pennant. I think the greatest tribute an athlete can have is being called a great sportsman, and that covers a lot of territory. It's just not having great talent, but being a winner, and it's playing fair and square and knowing how to win and lose. I really like that phrase, good sportsman, and it meant a lot to me to receive that honor. I have a picture on my wall at home that was taken at that time, showing me surrounded by every previous recipient of the Sportsman of the Year honor. All three of them. Getting together with Roger Bannister, Johnny Padres, and Bobby Morrow was a lot of fun. I played a few more years after that and retired in 1963. I'll never forget my last game against the Giants. I had been out late that night before with some of the guys, and just between you and I didn't think I was playing the next day, but I did. And to my surprise, I went 5 for 5. They had a little ceremony for me in Los Angeles the next day, and I'll never forget seeing all the Dodgers line up and shake my hand, and even Leo DeRocher. And I was really touched by that. So you see, there are more important things in life than just winning a ball game. Well, now let's take a look at the 1984 baseball season. It was a great year for the Detroit Tigers.
For only the 4th time in the history of baseball, one team led the majors from start to finish, from the first day of the regular season to the last out of the World Series. And that team, of course, was the Detroit Tigers. The Tigers' last link was welded just before the season began, with the addition of Willie Hernandez, a relief pitcher from Philadelphia, and the left-hander they needed in the bullpen. In 1984, Hernandez was 9-3, and in the 33 situations where he might have gained a save, he came through the first 32 times, and became only the 7th pitcher in history to win both the MVP and Cy Young awards. What made the Tigers so reliable, though, was that old reliable baseball cliche, strength up the middle. With Lance Parrish catching, Lou Whitaker and Alan Trammell at second and short, and Chet Lemon in center. There was also strength in the dugout, as Sparky Anderson became the first manager to win a world championship in both leagues. From the Big Red Machine of Cincinnati to the Holy Terrors of Detroit. Bless you, boys. The Tigers got to the World Series by beating Kansas City in the playoffs. The Royals were blessed themselves by the presence of Dan Quisenberry, who racked up 44 saves and 6 wins to help account for 60% of the Royals' wins and about 90% of their laughs. The American League batting title went to Don Mattingly, who first made the pages of Sports Illustrated back in 1979 as a face in the crowd when he was still an 18-year-old high school ball player. Mattingly spent most of the season trailing in a 2-man race with his own teammate Dave Winfield. But on the last day of the season, Winfield only went 1 for 4, while Mattingly went 4 for 5, not assuring himself of the title until he made a hit on his last time up. Afterwards, Mattingly had this to say.
I thought to myself right then, there's no way I can be a loser or Dave can be a loser in that situation. And it's just been a great thing, and I'm kind of glad it's over. And I just wish, I'd like to thank Dave Winfield. He pushed me all year long, and he's some kind of great player, and he's been a great person through the whole thing.
In the National League, another young hitter came out of nowhere to win the batting title. Tony Gwynn was such an all-around athlete at San Diego State that he was drafted on the same day in 1981 by both his hometown teams, baseball's San Diego Padres and basketball's San Diego Clippers. He chose baseball, and in 1984, he hit .351 to win the National League batting title by 37 points. Gwynn's teammate Steve Garvey says, "Tony's simply the best pure young hitter I've ever seen." The best old hitter that many of us have seen was Garvey in the fourth game of the National League playoffs. San Diego was down 2-0 against the Cubs, but the Padres came back and won the third game. Then in the fourth, Garvey got 2 singles, a double, and 5 RBIs, the last 2 of them on this game-winning home run. As Garvey said, once the ball took off, everything stopped. Time, sound, even the crowd. The next day, the Cubs' hopes were dashed as they were beaten again. But Chicago did win the National League East championship, the first time the Cubs have won any sort of championship since 1945. If, as always, autumn belonged to others, the Cubs had at last won a summer. Chicago fans could be grateful for that, at least. And for players like second baseman Ryne Sandberg, the former Philly farmhand, who won the Most Valuable Player award in the National League by hitting .314, fielding stylishly, and ranging all over the infield. Sandberg was the adhesive for a team that general manager Dallas Green had thrown together like bits and pieces from a garage sale. The last ingredient was Rick Sutcliffe, who began the season in Cleveland and didn't arrive in Chicago and the National League until the middle of June. Then he proceeded to go 16-1 and win the Cy Young Award after spotting the league's other pitchers a 2-month lead. Except for Sutcliffe's late arrival, one of 2 other pitchers might have earned the Cy Young Award. Bruce Sutter of St. Louis had an ERA of 1.54 and tied a major league record for saves with 45, equaling the mark that Quisenberry set last season. And teenager Dwight Gooden of the Mets pitched with the guile and maturity of a man twice his age and threw strikeouts with the audacity and pizzazz of a man twice as strong. Gooden struck out 276 batters, a record for rookie pitchers. But as we said, in 1984, it was the Tigers from start to finish. And if we start with them, we must finish with them. Specifically this man, World Series hero Alan Trammell. In 1984, Trammell led the Tigers in hitting with a .314 average, fielded brilliantly, winning his 4th Gold Glove, starred in the playoffs, and was the most valuable player in the World Series.
Just recalling other championship games in all sports, you see people jumping up and down on everybody, and all I wanted to do was keep my hat, and I've got it, and I wanted to keep it for myself, and I remember people trying to pull it away from me, but I kept it, and I wanted it very badly.
Isn't it amazing what would go through an athlete's mind at that great a moment? He was protecting his hat. During the 4 years that I played football at Utah State, our next sportsman was playing basketball at Ohio State. I can remember meeting Jerry Lucas for the first time and comparing hands with him, and it was the first time that anyone had made my hands look small, and I can remember Jerry's fingers were about that much longer than mine. The year, 1961. In 1961, Yankee right fielder Roger Maris broke the immortal Babe Ruth's all-time record with his 61st home run on the final day of the season. Floyd Patterson retained his heavyweight championship by knocking out Ingemar Johansson in their second rematch. The great Kelso ran away with Horse of the Year honors for the second straight year. The passing of Bart Starr helped Vince Lombardi's Green Bay Packers to their first NFL championship, defeating the New York Giants in the title game. While in college football, Ernie Davis of Syracuse became the first black to win the Heisman Trophy. And for achievements on the court and in the classroom, Ohio State student-athlete Jerry Lucas was named Sportsman of the Year. Ladies and gentlemen, Jerry Lucas.
Thanks, Merlin. You know I'm a memory expert, and I remember the time that we measured our hands together, but something happened, Merlin. In those days, your fingers were straight. I don't know what's happened now. Maybe you've been gripping too many flowers or too many microphones. I also have some fond memories of my playing days at Ohio State. A national championship, an Olympic gold medal, the Player of the Year award, and of course the Sportsman of the Year. The Sportsman Award was quite a surprise for me that year, especially since that year Roger Maris hit 61 home runs and a certain Utah State tackle, you know, the one with the crooked fingers I just talked about, he won the Outland Trophy that year. The award, of course, was good for me, but I think it was also good for college basketball at that time because the game had gotten a pretty bad reputation because of some betting scandals, and I felt the reputation I had as a serious athlete and a conscientious student helped give college basketball a little boost in morale that it needed. My coach, Fred Taylor, always said the only points I really was worried about were the ones on my grade point average, and I think that he was right at that time in my life. I'll admit that my approach to basketball was very businesslike, to be sure, even though I took a lot of ribbing from my teammates at that particular time, especially some of them said that, well, Merlin, what they really said was that my outside shot looked kind of like a frog, and so I said, I suppose nobody could accuse me of being too flashy. I remember one Buckeye fan very clearly saying, I wonder how old Luke was when he was born. We sure had a unique team at Ohio State in those days, though. I think it was the only team in the history of college basketball to have 5 players go on and play professional basketball. The other players were John Havlicek, Larry Siegfried, of course, my teammate John is in the audience tonight, and the other